So hello, my name is Saskia and welcome back to my channel. For those of you that don't know me, I am a psychology student, I'm going into second year and I'm also an online tutor. So I did not sit A-levels myself, but this video will be advice from general revision that I've learned from the IB because I did the IB, and also revision advice that I give to all my students because I have a couple hundred lessons that I've taught and I would say 40% of them have been psychology, something like that. So hopefully this won't be too long because my last video, my biology one, did end up being longer than I hoped. Got my notebook, I've always got my notebook. So this is going to be split into two sections. I will timestamp it. I'm going to have websites and revision resources to use, then general tips, and I'll timestamp each tip. So if you just want the tips, like, you can skip. So this advice is best suited for AQA and Edexcel. Could be used for OCR, but I don't really understand the OCR exam board. Doesn't make sense to me. The general revision resources should be useful for all of them. Advice should be helpful for some of them. So we'll start off with websites. So the first website is StudyRocket. I would say this is probably the worst of the websites I'm going to recommend, but if you do ever just need a really brief, like, summary catch-up of something, it will have a brief summary, as in like 4 bullet points, then evaluation bullet points. Like, if you just want bullet points, you just want clear, concise, brief information, StudyRocket is very good. It doesn't have every single point though. It's best suited for AQA, but it doesn't have every single thing, and some things are kind of split a bit weirdly in the structure of the like the contents page is a bit hard to navigate. Like, it's easy to find things like social influence, but some other things, like in research methods, it's quite hard to find anything. So yeah, StudyRocket is good, it's brief, it's a quick summary if you just need a quick catch up. Don't use it as like a main revision thing. So then we have PMT, which is Physics and Maths Tutor, which is by far my favourite website for literally everything. It has definition lists, it has summaries of every single point you need to know. The evaluation is really clear in like red or green if it's good or bad. It's got videos, it's got question papers on every single topic. As in, like, if you just want to look at animal studies of attachment, you can just do animal studies of attachment. PMT is incredible. It also has loads and loads of past papers. I think it has 2016, 2017, 2018, and the specimen paper, 2019 paper you can get from the AQA website. So yeah, PMT is probably the best website I will recommend. It has like booklets. If you don't want to make your own flashcards or you don't want to make your own like booklets or revision, PMT is the one. PMT, best website, highly recommend. It's all free. Then Simply Psychology. Main issue with Simply Psychology is that it's for a British exam board, but behaviour is spelt American, and it's emotionally painful for me to continually see that. Like, I get a lot of my resources for teaching from Simply Psychology because it splits it into AO1, AO2, AO3, which I find interesting and useful. But the American spelling, I can't deal with the American spelling. It hurts my feelings, especially if you're looking for, like, if you're looking for AO3 points, Simply Psych is probably the best place to go. It's all quite nicely sorted out, laid out. Some things are still missing from the website. It is still kind of always under construction, making something, but it is definitely a good website. Like, I'd say it's probably best for research methods. Like, if you struggle with research methods, Simply Psychology is probably the best place to go for research methods because it will explain everything quite nicely. It tends to do like, it would say like internal validity in bold and then just a nice definition. And that's kind of easy for me to understand. So hopefully it would be easy for students to understand. And then there is a YouTube channel called Psych Boost, which has videos that basically cover everything. Like, if you need like a 20-minute catch up on attachment in, I don't know, like early attachment, go on their website, not on their website, go on their YouTube, watch the video, and it's there. If you do just search like A-level psychology, most places, like, you're very likely to find an entire topic summary of everything. Like, there are some things like, you know, the behaviourist approach in 20 minutes, the cognitive approach in 20 minutes. Like, they will cover an entire section in, it's not the shortest amount of time, but it's a short amount of time considering how much content, you know, they are getting through. So those are all the websites. I went through that quickly. Sorry if it was too quick. Everything will be linked down below. Then some general tips. No one's going to want to hear this, but research methods is the most important topic. No one ever likes it. I love research methods. I don't know if that's just me, but research methods is incredible. I really enjoy it. But research methods is the most important because you will have an entire section on research methods first of all, but you will then have research methods questions in other parts of your topic. Like in the attachment section, most of your questions could literally be research methods. Like you'll get a study on childhood attachment, you'll have to evaluate the study, come up with a hypothesis. That's research methods. The majority of your marks, your marks are kind of evenly split between each topic, and then research methods has the biggest amount of marks. So you do need to know research methods. It's the most important. If you're going to spend extra time revising anything, research methods is the one to revise. Learn how to, write a hypothesis, learn a few general evaluative points for studies, learn repeated measures, independent measures, what do they mean, what's wrong with them. Learn your buzzwords as well within research methods. Like when you're doing research methods, always try and mention things like internal validity, external validity, reliability, population validity, generalizability, social desirability, demand characteristics, investigator bias, order effects, any of those kinds of buzzwords that you specifically learn in research methods, try and put in all of your evaluations because they are like your trigger words on the mark scheme. Like when I'm going through and marking students' papers, if they haven't specifically mentioned like what order effects is and then explained it, like don't just say, this prevents order effects, what is order effects? Explain it like I'm a baby. Like explain it, write your exam paper as if the person marking your paper knows nothing. They might know everything, but they can't tell that you know everything unless you've literally written everything you know down. So always try and put a buzzword, explain your buzzword, don't just put like this prevents order effects. You need to say what are order effects, and in the longer answer questions, like in a 6 mark or something, why do you want to prevent them? Like this is kind of going off topic, but with research methods, with any evaluation, you want to come up with your evaluative point. What is your evaluative point? So, it reduces order effects. What are order effects? Third point, your explanation. Why do we want to reduce order effects? What's bad about order effects? Why is it good to get rid of them? Always try and do 3 points per evaluation. Especially in like your essays, you want to explain everything. You want to make it very, very clear what you're trying to say. Then your kind of second tip is your definitions. Again, same with pretty much any subject, your definitions are key. Every question in a psychology paper, you pretty much want to define something. Like, I've been going through so many past papers with my students, and they know what attachment is, but they don't know. I'm going through loads of past papers with my students, and they'll know what something is, but they don't know how to explain it. Like, they'll know what attachment is, but not what AQA wants them to say attachment is. Learn the buzzwords for each definition. Like attachment, I think the buzzwords are like close bond, caregiver, something like that. Like find generic definitions of everything that you have to cover. Like what's social influence, what's obedience, what's all of these things, and then learn the buzzword in that definition that will get you the marks. Because sometimes they will just have a definition question worth 2 marks, and you can only hit both marks if you've mentioned both buzzwords. So learn the definitions, learn the buzzwords. Definitions mostly important for research methods again because it is your most important topic. Then learn a long answer structure. So you don't really need to learn a 12 marker structure because you're never going to be like properly assessed on a 12 marker, but learn how to structure your essays. Like when you get into A level, you do 16 markers. What does an essay look like? How do you write an introduction? How many studies do you use? How much evidence do you use? How many evaluative points? How much of each assessment objective do you need to include? Find online like perfect essay examples, go through the mark scheme and look at what points they want you to say. And then, even if you don't really want to if you don't want to write an answer, right, when you're just revising, go through the mark scheme, look at what they've said specifically you have to include, and then maybe just write down like paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3. What are you putting in which paragraph? Where would you put things? And also with your essays, there really is only so many essays they can ask you. Like I have looked through so many papers and there's not that much they can ask you to do. So you can honestly just plan essay answers for everything, look through the mark scheme. There's not mark schemes for every single essay ever, but it's kind of easy to guess what the points they would want you to mention are. Plan a perfect answer and then practice writing them. It's tedious, it's annoying, but there really isn't that many questions they could ask you. Like, you can plan answers to everything and almost be ahead of when they ask you the question, when the question comes up, you can know, oh, I've already planned this, I know exactly what point goes in what paragraph. If you don't want to do that, do just learn a general essay structure. So you know what goes in paragraph 1, what goes in paragraph 2, how long's your conclusion, what are you saying in a conclusion, what do you want, what's the point you're trying to get across, how are you going to get it across. Then, kind of linked with that, when you're learning about studies, so, you know, Milgram, Zimbardo, Ash, all of those kinds of things, learn them in almost bullet points. Like when I did the IB, I learned everything in flashcards. All my studies were flashcards. I had the aim, method, findings, conclusion. You don't really need to know the conclusion because you can almost, well, you don't need to write down the conclusion on a flashcard because you can kind of guess the conclusion from the results. If you understand the results. If you don't understand the results, write the conclusion down. But like try and learn everything kind of almost as briefly as possible. You don't really ever need to know the aim, like, you know, oh, they wanted to look at social influence. You can kind of guess that. Learn the method, learn, you know, 3 key points about the method, 2 key points about the results, and then what they concluded. You know, there is only so many studies they can ask you about, so it's not a huge amount of information, but the amount of times questions have come up where it's literally been like a 12 marker on Milgram and people haven't had enough points, you can quite easily get enough points with just, you know, 3 points about the method, 2 points about results conclusion, and then 3 evaluative points, and you've probably hit enough points. Like if you waffle a bit as well, talk about general things, you've then got it. Like you can really break down an entire study into something very, very short and then almost waffle from that. Like I'm not recommending waffling necessarily, but it does work sometimes. If you're smart enough to waffle, you can waffle. Like my flashcards, some of them would literally just say like, results 25% conformed, 3% didn't. I would write that down and then explain why. I didn't need to write down on my flashcard why, because I knew that when it came to the exam, I could explain why that had happened, or give an idea as to why that happened. Even if it wasn't correct, it was a potential explanation. Like it could work for you. Then obviously do past papers. Like I think it's obvious, but some people might not find it obvious. Do past papers. There's only so many questions they can ask you. And if you see that the same question comes up every year, it's probably going to come up again. You can also almost, like I'm not saying you can officially say that an essay question won't come up, but when you do look through like the A-level papers, you can basically look at like how frequently different topics come up. Like if every essay question has been on social cognitive theory, you should probably know social cognitive theory because it will either come up as an essay or something else. Look at the things that haven't come up at all. Like if humanism has never come up in approaches as a longer question, you've got a high chance it could come up. Like do with that what you will, you know, look through the exam papers and do what you want with the information, but you can sometimes kind of gauge what will come up and what won't. Like I knew in the IB, the questions they'd asked last year, they couldn't ask me again. They absolutely would not be asking me again, but then in the IB you do much fewer questions. So, you know, work out how much information you want to know, look through the exam paper and work out what you can kind of almost cut out of your revision. So I did also mention this in biology, but do active recall. Blurting is the only active recall technique I actually like. So I would literally just write, like say I'm doing social influence, I would just write social influence and then blurt. What do I know? If you need like a refresher, you can print out the spec because then you're not kind of cheating too much in your active recall. Like obviously first, go for it. Everything you know about social influence. If you're struggling, look at the spec, what bullet points have they put? And then you look at, right, Ash. Oh, I remember what Ash did. Then you've kind of got like a helping hand for your active recall. Keep all of those, look at what you know, look at what you don't know, and then revise obviously the areas you don't know. Research methods is the most important. Learn your definitions, learn an essay structure, do past papers, learn the information for studies, and do some active recall and blurt. And that is how you get an A star in psychology, hopefully. Like this isn't a guaranteed technique, this is just what I have learned works best for me and works best for students, and this is what I recommend. As someone that, I'm not gonna lie, I've been through these exam papers, like the AS papers, so many times. Like I do know the papers like the back of my hand, and I know the examiner reports like the back of my hand now. So, you know, you don't have to take my advice, but I would say it's qualified advice. Like I'm not a teacher, but I'm a tutor, and that's the kind of qualification I would say. So this could be helpful, this might not be helpful. Also, never leave a question blank. So many people leave questions blank, and then I go through the paper with them and they know the answer. It just took a few minutes to get there. Like, if you don't know the answer to a question, if it's on attachment, I don't know, shove a definition of attachment down, shove anything you know about the topic down, and you can just put it in bullet points if you really haven't got a clue. But like, don't leave a question blank, because you could get so many marks that you don't necessarily know you could get. Like, you always know more than you think you know. Like, come back to it later, or write down a few keywords, highlight the question, have a look, never leave it blank. So I think that is all the advice I have to give. This has probably not been the longest video from me, because I mean, it's probably still like 15 minutes or something, but I do make quite chunky videos sometimes. So yeah, if this was helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, like if you want any resources as well, I can send them to you. Like if you ever want past papers or something that you can't find, or revision stuff, like DM me on Instagram, comment down here, and I'll send them to you. If you also go on my TED shop, I think there's quite a few AQA A-level revision stuff that's all free. Hopefully that was helpful, and I will see you in a few days. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe, validate me. Tell me this video didn't suck. Please, I need it.